dear God. This is it, people. We've reached the dumbest point in modern history. I wish this hadn't happened, but it has. I have read a book, and this book is the weirdest book I have ever read. It defines ridiculous and defies how much bullshit you could realistically expect a human brain to hold before it bursts. This book is something I just have to share. There is no way that I can let this amount of sheer dumb arsery go without commenting on it. It's that weird, it's that silly, but I kind of love it. This review is going to be a weird one, folks, so I apologise in advance. But to make sense of it all, we're going to have to go on a little history lesson.
1988.
An obscure band release a novelty single that makes it all the way to number one. The song in question is Doctor in the TARDIS, and the band are the Time Lords. That was officially the most sensible part of this review. From here on, it only gets weirder. You've been warned. After their hit single, the Time Lords released a manual on how to reach number one in the UK charts, and then renamed themselves as the KLF, also known as the Justified Ancients of Mu, or the Jams for short. Now you've probably got a few questions in your head, and I can only answer some of them. Nobody knows. Well, the Justified Ancients of Mu actually come from the Illuminatus books released in the 70s. They are the age-old enemies of the Illuminati in this book. Don't. They are unbelievably dumb. The KLF were huge in the early 90s, getting hit after hit after hit. Most of their stuff couldn't really be defined. It had acid house segments, rap segments, gospel, even country. Yeah, Tammy Wynette appears in one of their songs. This was no longer the acid house that we'd seen with the Time Lords. This was stadium house. And then, when the world was seemingly theirs, they threw it all away. At the infamous 1992 Brit Awards, they fired blanks into the crowd, announced they were quitting the music industry, and left a sheep's head on the front door of the reception. But they didn't stop there. 2 years later, they burnt £1 million on a remote Scottish island after trying to give it away to people. Quite why they just didn't give it to a charity, I will never know. And that night they promised that the KLF would not regroup for another 23 years. Which brings us, quite neatly, to August 2017. The KLF were back, but now they weren't making music. Now they were making ridiculous pieces of fiction. Which brings us on to this. 2023, a trilogy by the Justified Ancients of Mu. Just look at it. What's going on? And let me tell you, it gets even weirder when you look at the first page and see what you're in for. The Scream is a painting by the Norwegian artist Edvard Munch. The Scream is one of the 5 most famous paintings in the world. The Scream was painted in 1893. In the background of the painting are 2 men dressed in black, wearing top hats. These 2 men were the then representatives of the Justified Ancients of Mu. The current representatives of the Justified Ancients of Mu are Jimmy Corti and Bill Drummond, the 2 members of the band. The Justified Ancients of Mu are many things. The Justified Ancients of Mu are also known as the Jams. www.mumufication.com. It's going to be one of those books, guys. So, how to review this book? How to even bloody begin to review this book? The author of the book is fictional. I'm not talking about a pen name. At the end of every chapter, there is a diary entry from the so-called author of the book. But the author is also a fictional character. They've just made up the author of the book. And so right off the bat, they hit you with bookception and you have no idea what to think. But believe me, this is only the start. There are so many references in this book. And none of them are sensible. They're all off-kilter, weird references. Lady Gaga's in this book. Sorry, Lady Gaga. Yeah, they changed the name. That's clever. Parker from Thunderbirds is in this book as well. So's Putin, Angela Merkel, and not one, but 2 Yoko Onos. Why are there so many references? I mean, credit where credit's due. They're all better than the references in Ready Player One. So I'm aware I'm probably not selling you the book right now. Is there anything about it that's worth reading? Actually, yeah. The world building in this book is all excellent, so's the character development. The story is very interesting, as are all of the side plots, which all come to a head in the finale, very satisfying. And in a weird way, all of the strangeness and all of the references actually made the book all the more fascinating to read. And it actually has quite a potent social commentary as well. So the question of whether or not I can recommend this book is difficult to answer, because it really depends on who I'm recommending it to. If you want an easy read, do not read this. If you want a coherent read, do not read this. If, however, you want a read that challenges you, takes you way out of your comfort zone, and offers you something way out of the ordinary, then this book might be the one for you. Also, don't worry about the references. They're really not that important, and you really don't need to know all of them. A lot of them are just referring to the Illuminatus books, which, as I've already said, are shockingly dumb. So I would say just roll with it. There's a lot of 1984 referencing as well. The title, for one thing. But, again, that's only superficial. The plot is nothing like 1984, really. So you can get away without knowing anything about this book prior to reading it. The only thing I'd recommend is perhaps listening to a bit of the KLF before you read this. A, they're a good band, and B, it will sort of put you in their minds a little bit because their minds are weird. Please come back for the next video. It's not going to be as weird as this one was. In fact, I hope not to make a video as weird as this one for a while. So thank you very much for watching, and I will hopefully see you next time.